Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Wow, what an amazing interview I had with Bill today. Just blew me away talking with him. Really down-to-earth guy. Just salt of the earth, actually. He's a real good guy. Terrifying encounter, so. An amazing connection story. Just real cool. So, but that's not why we're here. We're here because I've got the Wayback Machine all revved up and ready to go. Before we go on that trip, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version. Written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. It's available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to those are also in the description below. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Wild man seen again. Reported to be in the neighborhood of Macksburg, Iowa, September 28, 1899. The wild man, or other mystery reported in your issue of Tuesday, September 26th, is in this vicinity, or at least was at the early hour yesterday morning. It was seen by a hired man employed by Captain Garker while he was in the Grand River timber looking for some stray stock. The man says the mysterious stranger took after him and admits that he was so badly frightened that any description he may give of it cannot be relied upon. Swiftly from the terrified storyteller, the facts appear to be as follows. The wild man is gigantic stature, covered with hair, either natural or from some wild beast. It looked like a gorilla or a large ape. The hired man ran until he found a horse, when he mounted it and rode off. The wild man did not make an effort to follow him. There is a reign of terror in the community, and it is probable that there will not be any school until the mystery is solved, as the children are unwilling to leave their home so long as the wild man is at large. A circle hunt is being organized to search for this mysterious creature. When the first reports concerning the mystery came to Macksburg, there was much skepticism, and very few thought there was anything in the rumors. But the testimony of Barnum, and also Mr. Prangle, who saw the object at short range, has satisfied all that there is some subject roaming about the country that should be captured and detained. If it is an insane man, he should be placed in an asylum, where he cannot harm people nor frighten women and children. If it is a wild animal, it cannot be anything else than a gorilla, one of the most savage animals in existence and extremely dangerous while running at large. This comes to us from the Daily Iowa Capital, September 28th, 1899. Lake Minnewanka. Wild man shot again. Falls, but carries on. Lake Minnewanka, Banff National Park, spring, 1899. During the spring, our wild man had another bout with bullets. He was spotted near a cabin, watching a pair of horses stationed at a small corral. The inhabitant of the cabin stated he appears to have caught the oddity off guard and thinks he hit him at least 3 times with shots from a lever-action rifle. He fell to the ground but quickly rose again and dashed off into the forest. That the wild man is still alive and well was seen in the late summer. A small pile of fish bones was found near the lake shore with several telltale 19-inch long footprints nearby. However, we think the creature has had enough of Minnewanka's neighborhood love and affection In the early winter, it is reported that a man on a horseback spotted the creature at a distance. It was walking towards the west, and he noticed that it had a very bad limp. Perhaps this was the effect of being shot. The man watched it until it disappeared into the distant tree line. Archived. Wild man is caught. Will be shown for identification. Trouble is brewing. Des Moines, Iowa, October 3rd, 1899. The balance of the party having the wild man in charge arrived from the west in the city about 10 o'clock this morning. He resisted every attempt to bring him, and it was necessary to tie him hand to foot before he could even be brought. When near the head of Terrace Hill, one of the bands of his arms became loosened, and there was a lively struggle for some moments to prevent his escape. His strength is simply phenomenal. The strongest man in the party were wee children in his grasp. He fought with his mouth as well as his hands and attempted to bite like a wild animal. When he was finally landed at the city jail, the services of the entire force on duty were required to take him from the wagon and safely place him in the strong room, where he was heavily manacled. He does not speak, but howls and shrieks like a wild beast. The present intention is to exhibit him in some prominent place in order that person may see if he is really a wild man or an escaped inmate of some asylum. There is prospect, too, of a legal fight, as several parties claim he belongs to the menagerie of a traveling in the South. The county officers have been appealed to by the Humane Society to prevent any unnecessary restraint on the strange being. Daily News, Des Moines, Iowa, October 3rd, 1899. Wild man in court. Wallace circus agent claims it is a gorilla, not a man. Des Moines, Iowa, October 4th, 1899. The wild man got into court yesterday, the result of a disagreement between the officials having him in charge and Mr. Lafayette, the agent of Wallace Circus Company, who claimed possession of him on the ground that he was not a man but a gorilla that had escaped from the circus in southern Missouri last summer. When the officers refused to give possession, he brought an action in Judge Silveira's court, retaining as counsel Mr. Dowell and Morris. The officers were represented by Mr. Maxwell. The testimony was purely technical, the only witnesses being physicians, Doctors Van Worden, McCarthy, and Reed of this city, and Dr. Thero of Nebraska Insane Asylum. They testified that the strange creature was undoubtedly a man, although so misinformed that some of the organs and attributes of humanity appeared to be lacking. The judge accepted their evidence as conclusive on the only point that was raised and directed the officers to retain the custody until such time as the final disposition could be made of him, either by discovering the persons responsible for him, by his permanent removal to some of the state institutions. A large number of visitors in the city during the carnival week was suggested to the court, and it is probable that the wild man will be placed on exhibit somewhere in order that he may be identified by some of them. The place where this will take place will be announced tomorrow morning, it having been impossible to secure the necessary room at the time this item was written. Daily Iowa, Capital, October 4th, 1899. This is a different article from a different paper. Wild man in court. Wallace Circus demands him. Severa refuses to release him. Des Moines, Iowa, October 4th, 1899. The case of the wild man took a different turn this morning from anything that would be expected. The agent for the Wallace Circus, Mr. Lafayette, who was with the capturing party when the man was secured, demanded possession of him on the claim that he was not a man but a huge gorilla that escaped from the circus in Missouri last summer, and for whose discovery and capture the company has extended a large amount of money. He made a formal demand of the officers for his return to custody of the company and was, unadvised by physicians who were consulted, refused, the professional men asserting that he was a human being. Lafayette then brought an action before the Judge Silvera for the recovery of the alleged gorilla as property of Wallace Circus Company. Morris and Dowell appeared for the company, and Mr. Maxwell for defense. Dr. Thayer of Nebraska, Drs. Van Worden and Reed and McCarthy of the city testified after as complete examination as they were able to give the subject that he is a human being, although lacking some features both of body and mind. The opinion of the doctors was that the unfortunate man had been born in this present condition, and that his ferocious temper had been agitated by the long course of continued ill treatment. There were marks on his wrists and ankles indicating a long acquaintance with manacles and leg irons. Judge Silvera, accepting the finding of the physicians, and directed that the man should be remained into custody of the officials until such time as his identity should be discovered or some permanent determination affecting looking for his confinement, in order to give the many thousands of people who will be there during the carnival week an opportunity to see him and thus aid in the discovery of his residence and the parties who were responsible for keeping him. He is to be placed on exhibit at some place not yet determined upon, but probably in one of the vacant storerooms on Locust Street. Announcement of the place will be made in the morning papers. The Daily News, Des Moines, Iowa, October 4th, 1899. Wild Man to be displayed, Des Moines, Iowa, October 5th, 1899. The Wild Man will be shown in a circus tent at the corner of Mulberry and 7th this evening and the balance of the week. It has been the intention to show him this afternoon, but to do so would necessitate the construction of a large cage and the work and expense of its removal to the downtown grounds. Accordingly, the mystery can be seen this evening on the new grounds. Daily News, Des Moines, Iowa, October 5th, 1899. Hairy monster seen along Lewis River, Washington, 1899. James Spencer, a blacksmith, reported an unusual experience while fishing on the upper Lewis River. Upon hearing a strange noise, he looked in the direction and saw a hairy monster staring at him from across the water. He quickly departed downstream. Comes to us from the Oregon Journal. Hairy apes, rather young. September 18th, 1968. Prospectors shoot at Indian Devil. South Six River, Oregon, 1899. Mr. Robbins and Mr. Benson, prospectors, report they shot at what has been referred to as an Indian devil. These creatures are said to be over 6 and 1 feet tall, very heavy, powerful, and covered with a short coat of yellowish fur. They are said to inhabit the upper reaches of the Sixes River. Robbins and Benson were in this area when they saw this creature of the description push their camp gear over a cliff. After they fired, it ran off. Another prospector in the same area, who goes by the name of Doc, also reports seeing one of these creatures. He found and measured its footprints, which, he states, were 16 inches by 8 inches. Comes to us from the Sasquatch File, 1947 Sunday Magazine. Huge Beastman shot near Pistolet Bay, Newfoundland, winter 1890s. William Decker, who lives on one of the small settlements on Newfoundland's side of the Strait of Belle Isle, reported a horrific encounter with some kind of animal man while hunting and fishing near Pislet Bay. One frosty morning, he took his muzzle loader and headed into the back country. As he reached a marsh about 300 yards across, he heard a loud and frightening roar. He turned, and what he saw made him almost faint in his tracks. A huge animal, or huge man, a giant creature anyway, was coming at him in gigantic leaps. Decker had already charged his gun with plenty of powder and shot. He knelt down and took steady aim and waited till the creature was very close, too close for comfort. Then he fired. The weight of the charge brought the Beastman to his knees, but it was up again and very quickly. But Decker was ready to shoot a second volley, and the creature fell a second time, letting out a bellow that could be heard for miles. Taking no chances, he reloaded and fired a third volley. The creature did not stir again. Decker measured the creature. It was 10 to 12 feet tall, with an outstretched arm span of 14 feet. Its feet left tracks in the snow that Decker's snowshoes couldn't cover. The body, he said, was covered in long hair. He figured the creature weighed about 1,000 pounds. That report comes to us from a radio show in 1977 called The Abominable Snowman in Newfoundland, CBC Radio, St. John's Jamboree, Friends and Neighbors. Well, family, that brings us up to the 1900s, and now I'm going to search for encounters reported in the news from the 1900s on. I hope you enjoyed this little segment that I did. I know I enjoyed sharing these crazy old-time encounters with you. Definitely very interesting, I thought. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to pass these news clippings on to my dad so my dad can check them out and giggle to himself because he loves this stuff and giggles when he reads it. Very strange. Anyway, have a great night, guys, and thanks for all the support. See ya!